If you believe that men are only turned on by what they see, you're missing out on almost all of what truly pulls them in. The truth is, the strongest turn-ons for a man aren't just about what's physical. They're emotional, mental, deeply psychological. It's not the dress, the lipstick, or the curves. Although, yes, those can definitely grab his attention for a moment. But what actually sticks in his mind, what haunts him late at night when he's lying awake staring at the ceiling, is something quieter, deeper, harder to explain. It's the things you do that seem small on the outside, but strike his nervous system like emotional electricity. Once you really understand how these unseen triggers work, you'll stop worrying about how to impress him, because you won't just turn him on, you'll slip into his thoughts and stay there. You'll become that feeling he can't shake, the memory he keeps returning to. These psychological switches, once flipped, don't just make him want you, they make him crave the feeling he gets when he's around you, the way your energy shifts a room, the way your silence can be louder than someone else's entire conversation. These aren't tricks, they're truths. Truths about how male desire really works. Once you learn how to tap into them, it's not about playing games. It's about playing the right notes, creating an emotional echo that stays long after you've left the room. Let's start with one of the oldest, simplest tools in your arsenal, the mysterious glance. It's not just a look, it's an unspoken message. When your eyes meet his from across the room, and instead of instantly looking away or flashing a polite smile, you let that gaze linger, just a heartbeat longer than expected, it does something to him. And then you break it, maybe with a slight smirk, or maybe with no expression at all. That's not just eye contact, that's mental suspense. That's controlled tension. That's flirtation on a psychological level. You see, men are wired to pursue what feels just a little out of reach. When you give him that look, the one that says, "I see you," followed immediately by the energy that says, "But if you want more, come earn it," his reward system lights up. It plants a question in his mind. Was that interest, was that connection, or was it just politeness? That uncertainty is what hooks him, because the brain hates open loop, and when it comes to attraction, that emotional tension, that question mark, that sense of, I want more, but I'm not sure where I stand, that becomes incredibly magnetic. Is the truth most people don't say. Certainty is safe, but it's rarely sexy. Predictability is comfortable, but unpredictability, that's what keeps a man coming back for more. That's what makes him try harder, think deeper, and wonder longer. Now, let's talk about playful teasing. You might assume men only want compliments, praise, and gentle kindness. And yes, kindness has its place, but here's the thing. Too much softness, it goes unnoticed. It blends in. What actually gets a man's full attention is light-hearted pushback, clever banter, that fun spark of challenge. It's not about being mean, it's about showing you're not trying to win him over. You're just enjoying the moment, and you're not afraid to poke a little fun. When you say something like, "That's the worst excuse I've ever heard, try again," or "Wow, you really think that shirt makes you look taller," you're not insulting him, you're playing. And more importantly, you're telling him, you don't get a pass just for showing up. That kind of playful attitude, it wakes him up. It shakes him out of his routine. It triggers his brain to engage, respond, and match your energy. Banter activates the part of his brain that seeks rewards. It's the dance before the kiss, the tug before the pull. It creates a rhythm, a push and pull that keeps things exciting. And underneath it all, there's a message. I like myself. I'm having fun. I'm not trying to get picked. I'm already the prize. That confidence, that effortless enjoyment of your own presence, that's rare, and in a world where most people are trying to perform or impress, it stands out like fire in the dark. This is how you stop being just another pretty face and become the experience he can't stop thinking about. You shift from being visually attractive to emotionally unforgettable. And emotional impact, that's what men carry with them. Because a man may notice beauty, but he remembers how a woman made him feel. He remembers the unexpected laugh, the flash of confidence, the playful challenge. He remembers the way you didn't try to prove anything, and yet, somehow, he felt like he needed to prove something to you. That's what flips the script. That's what creates desire that doesn't fade once the room goes quiet. And when you pair that mystery with playfulness, when you look at him like he's a puzzle and tease him like you already know the answer, it's game over. You're not just turning him on, you're making him think about you in the shower, during meetings, in the middle of the night. You're not just interesting, you're unforgettable. And not because of what you wore or how perfect your makeup was, but because you gave him an experience that touched his mind, not just his body. That's the power of psychological attraction. And once you learn to speak that language, you'll realize something huge. Men aren't craving more beauty, they're craving more feeling. And you already have everything it takes to become that feeling they never forget. He starts seeing every other woman not like you as somehow less. Not in a harsh or judgmental way, but in that quiet, unspoken way men do when they've felt something real, something rare. 3 simple vocal shifts can do what 100 perfect photos can't. See, words are just information, but your tone, that's melody to his subconscious. That's what his deeper mind listens for, what his body reacts to without him even knowing why. If you've ever leaned in while talking, lowered your voice just a little, slowed your words as you made a point or asked a question, then you've already used this kind of turn-on, maybe without realizing it. The brain is wired to respond instantly to those shifts. A lower tone suggests closeness. A slower pace signals that what you're saying matters. Think about it. When someone suddenly softens their voice, what do you naturally do? You lean closer, you pause, you listen, you stop scrolling, stop thinking ahead and just focus. In a world full of noise, chaos and fast-talking energy, that small quiet shift in tone becomes a kind of emotional caress. It reaches past his ears and straight into his nervous system. It tells him this moment is different. Something meaningful is happening. And suddenly, without even laying a hand on him, you've pulled him in. You've slowed his thoughts. You've created something intimate that's not just attention, it's emotional chemistry. Intrigue, it's desire sparked by nothing more than your voice being intentional. And then there's that powerful emotional pull of making a man feel chosen, not just seen, not just noticed, but truly picked out of a world full of options. Most people don't get this, but it's one of the biggest things men quietly crave. They don't just want someone to look at them, they want to feel chosen. Not like a backup plan, not like the guy who happened to be there, not like, well, I guess you'll do. They want to feel like they had to earn your attention, like you could have had anyone, and still you chose them. That experience for a man is rare, and when it happens, it's unforgettable. You don't have to play games or be cold. It's about being clear with yourself about your worth. When a man senses that you're a woman with options, with standards, with inner richness, and yet you still lean into him, that hits his core. That doesn't just turn him on. It anchors him emotionally. It makes him want to prove himself in the best way, not out of fear, but out of pride. Because now it matters. Now he sees himself differently through your eyes. And it only takes one softly spoken sentence, said at the right moment, to trigger that shift. Say something like, I usually don't feel comfortable sharing like this, but there's something about you that makes me feel safe. That moment? That's not just words, that's bonding, that's him lowering his guard without even realizing it. That's where desire turns into emotional investment. And then you do something most people never expect. You surprise him with depth. See, we live in a world of small talk. What's your favorite color? What shows are you watching? What's your zodiac sign? But real connection isn't born from surface questions. It's born from moments that catch him off guard in the best way. So instead of following the usual script, you share something raw. Maybe a memory, a unique take on something, a truth most people are too scared to say out loud. It doesn't have to be heavy, just real. That's what creates a jolt in his mind. Psychologists call it a pattern interrupt. It breaks his expectations. Suddenly, you're not who he thought. You're more. He was following the usual flow, and then boom, he's wide awake, interested, and now he wants to know more. Because you're layered. You're not just attractive, you're intriguing. It's not just chemistry, it's curiosity. And that is the hidden engine of lasting desire. It's what keeps him thinking about you in quiet moments, wondering what else there is to you. You see, men don't fall deeply for looks alone. Looks can attract, sure, but it's these subtle, emotional, unexpected moments that leave a real mark. The softness in your voice, the confidence in your boundaries, the mystery in your insight. When he experiences that, he doesn't just want to be around you, he wants to understand you. That's what separates a fling from a connection he can't forget. You become the story he replays, the feeling he tries to recreate, the moment that made him feel something real again in a world that often feels flat. Because once a man experiences a woman who knows how to use her voice like touch, her presence like invitation, her honesty like art, he stops seeing other women the same way. They might still be beautiful, still interesting, but they don't move him the way you do. Because you didn't just catch his attention, you slipped under his skin. You made his world slow down for a second. And that second lingers. It echoes. It becomes the space in his mind that no one else quite fills. When a man feels like he's constantly uncovering new layers of who you are, something inside him shifts. You don't just stay in his memory, you start to live there. You're not someone he met once and then forgot. You become this unfolding mystery that keeps tugging at him. Every conversation, every glance, every unexpected response from you makes him want to dive deeper. He starts thinking, who is she really? And that curiosity, mixed with emotional stimulation, builds something unforgettable. Now think about the way you respond when he lets his guard down. Men are trained from early on to keep things inside. Be tough, don't cry, don't talk too much, don't show fear. So when a man finally opens up about his anxiety, stress, or doubts, whether he realizes it or not, he's giving you something sacred. It's not just a conversation, it's trust in action. And how you meet that moment, it can either build an emotional bridge or quietly burn it. If you respond with judgment, awkwardness, or try to immediately give him advice like you're solving a puzzle, it quietly tells him it's not safe to be vulnerable. But when you sit there with quiet presence, with soft understanding in your eyes, and allow the space to breathe without trying to fix anything, you're giving him something almost no one else gives: emotional safety. And emotional safety to a man who's constantly told to man up is more seductive than any kid. You become more than just someone he's dating. You become a place where he can land, rest, and be fully human. He may not put it into words, but inside he's thinking, I don't have to pretend with her. And that feeling that he can just be is more intimate than any physical act. It says to him, this is real. And real is what touches a man deeply, even if he doesn't talk about it. Then there's that one thing that only you do, this signature quirk or tiny habit he can't help but associate with you. Maybe it's the way you brush your fingers through your hair while thinking, or that unique laugh you let out when something really gets you. Or perhaps it's the way you whisper, "Thank you," with that soft little smile and light touch on his arm. These are more than just habits. They're personal imprints, markers in his memory. Men connect pleasure to patterns. When he starts linking his happiest feelings to things only you do, you begin to take up space in his emotional world. He starts noticing how no one else quite laughs like you, how no one else says that phrase in just the same way. And when he catches someone else doing something similar and feels the absence of you, that's when you know you've carved a place in his thoughts he can't erase. You don't need to perform. You don't need to overdo it. Just let your essence flow into those moments. When your natural rhythm becomes familiar and comforting to him, you become a part of his emotional landscape. That kind of connection isn't created by being loud. It's created by being authentically you. And then there's the moment you give him a compliment. Not one of those standard lines, but something real, something observant. You catch a moment others would overlook and speak to it. Like saying, "I noticed how calm you stayed when that guy was being rude. That kind of patience is rare." Or, "You're really great at making people feel like they belong. It's something I really admire." That kind of praise. It doesn't just boost his ego, it touches his core, because it tells him you see him. Not just his looks or achievements, but the parts of him he's quietly proud of. And science backs this up. When someone feels seen for qualities they value in themselves, their brain lights up with oxytocin and dopamine, the chemicals of trust, bonding, and emotional excitement. In that one sentence, you've done what most never do. You've made him feel both safe and desired. You've created emotional heat. And that's not something easily forgotten. Now let's talk about one of the deepest psychological attractors, emotional control. But not in a cold, detached way. It's about the kind of inner steadiness that makes people lean in without realizing why. It's the energy of a woman who feels everything, but doesn't let chaos guide her. She feels deeply, but chooses her responses. She's soft, but rooted. When you carry that energy, warm, feminine, yet calmly self-possessed, it stirs something inside a man. It makes him pay attention. Not because you're the loudest, but because you're the calmest voice in the storm. And that calm, it makes him feel like you are the safe harbor. It makes him want to protect you, yes, but also be protected by your peace. That mysterious blend of tenderness and strength is magnetic. He might not even be able to explain it. All he knows is when you walk into a room, the energy shifts. You're not trying to be noticed, and yet everyone notices, and for him it's more than attraction, it's fascination. He begins imagining what it would feel like to have your steadiness in his life, not just for a night, but for years. That combination of warmth and mystery is what keeps him curious, grounded, and emotionally attached. These little things, how you listen, how you speak, what you notice, how you carry your calm, they're not loud, but they are lasting. They touch places in him that even he doesn't fully understand. You become the voice he hears when he's alone, the person he compares others to without even knowing it. And that's unforgettable. It's also in the way you hold back just enough, not to play games, but to let silence speak. When you don't rush to fill every gap, when you let pauses breathe, something powerful happens. He leans in. He starts wondering what's on your mind. He starts feeling the gravity of your presence without you having to prove anything. You're not trying to be mysterious, you just are. Because you're not desperate to explain yourself. That unspoken confidence makes a man slow down. It makes him want to earn more of your mind, not just your body. You're not throwing your emotions at him. You're inviting him to meet you at your level. That subtle difference is everything. Because in a world where most people scream to be seen, your quiet strength becomes irresistible. And when you can hold his gaze, not just with your eyes, but with your energy, that's when he really starts to fall, not for the surface of you, but for the space you create. A space where he feels both thrilled and grounded, where he feels like he's stepping into something sacred. This kind of emotional pull doesn't come from trying to be perfect. It comes from being present, being fully in your body, listening not just with your ears, but with your whole being, responding with care instead of reaction, laughing when it's real, not forced, letting your touch be thoughtful, not calculated. That's what draws a man deeper. That's what makes him feel safe in your fire and seen in your softness. It's in the way you challenge him too, but with grace. Not to tear him down, but to hold him to his higher self. When you believe in his strength, even when he doubts it, when you say, "I know you can handle this," and you mean it, that kind of belief does something to a man. It sticks to his ribs. It becomes a quiet motivation, a whisper that reminds him of who he is when the world tries to wear him down. He may act tough on the outside, but deep down he wants someone who sees him beyond the mask, someone who can touch the parts of him that feel invisible to everyone else, someone who doesn't just react to his words, but listens for what's underneath. That emotional X-ray vision, that's what makes you unforgettable.